Hey, how we doing? Today's a busy day with Genesis chapter 24 and 25. It's the story of how Abraham plans to get his son Isaac a wife. It's an incredible story of the providence of God. Providence meaning that God puts things together so that in the end it works out for the best. So let's jump into Genesis chapter 24, beginning in verse 1, the contemporary English version. Abraham was now a very old man. The Lord had made him rich, and he was successful in everything that he did. One day, Abraham called in his most trusted servant and said to him, solemnly promise in the name of the Lord, who rules heaven and earth, that you won't choose a wife for my son Isaac from the people here in the land of Canaan. Instead, go back to the land where I was born and find a wife for him from among my relatives. But the servant asked, what if the young woman I choose refuses to leave home and come here with me? Should I send Isaac there to look for a wife? And no, Abraham answered, don't ever do that, no matter what. The Lord who rules heaven brought me here from the land where I was born and promised that he would give this land to my descendants forever. When you go back there, the Lord will send his angel ahead of you to help you find a wife for my son. If the woman refuses to come along, you don't have to keep this promise, but don't ever take my son back there. So the servant gave Abraham his word that he would do everything he had been told to do. Soon after that, the servant loaded 10 of Abraham's camels with valuable gifts. Then he set out for the city of northern Syria, where Abraham's brother Nahor lived. We talked about him yesterday. When he got there, he let the camels rest near the well outside the city. It was late afternoon, the time when the women came out for water. The servant prayed, you, Lord, are the God my master Abraham worships. Please keep your promise to him and let me find a wife for Isaac today. The young women of the city will soon come to this well for water, and I'll ask one of them for a drink. If she gives me a drink and then offers to get some water for my camels, I'll know she is the one you have chosen and that you have kept your promise to my master. While he was still praying, a beautiful unmarried young woman came by with a water jar on her shoulder. She was Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, and son of Abraham's brother Nahor and his wife Milcah. Rebekah walked past Abraham's servant, then went over to the well and filled her water jar. When she started back, Abraham's servant ran to her and said, please, let me have a drink of water. I'll be glad to, she answered, and then she quickly took the jar from her shoulder and held it while he drank. After he had finished, she said, now I'll give your camels all the water they want. And she quickly poured out water for them, and she kept going back for more until his camels had drunk all they wanted. Abraham's servant did not say a word, but he watched everything Rebekah did, because he wanted to know for certain if he was the woman the Lord had chosen. The servant had brought along an expensive gold ring and 2 large gold bracelets. When Rebekah had finished bringing the water, he gave her the ring for her nose and the bracelets for her arms. And then he said, please tell me, who your father is. Does he have room in his house for me and my men to spend the night? She answered, my father is Bethuel, and son of Nahor and Milcah. We have a place where you and your men can stay, and we also have enough straw and feed for your camels. Then the servant bowed his head and prayed, I thank you, Lord God of my master Abraham. You have led me to his relatives and kept your promise to him. Rebekah ran straight home and told her family everything. Her brother Laban heard her tell what the servant had said, and he saw the ring and the bracelets she was wearing. So Laban ran out to Abraham's servant, who was standing by his camels at the well. Then Laban said, the Lord has brought you safely here. Come with me. There's no need for you to keep on standing outside. I have a room ready for you in our house, and there's also a place for your camels. Abraham's servant went home with Laban, where Laban's servants unloaded his camels and gave them straw and feed. Then they went Then they brought water into the house so Abraham's servants and his men could wash their feet. After that, they brought in food, but the servant said, "Before I eat, I must tell you why I've come." "Go ahead and tell us," Laban answered. The servant explained, "I am Abraham's servant. The Lord has been good to my master and has made him very rich. He has given him many sheep, goats, cattle, camels, and donkeys, as well as a lot of silver and gold and many slaves. Sarah, my master's wife, didn't have any children until she was very old. Then she had a son, and my master has given him everything. I solemnly promised my master that I would do what he said, and he told me, 'Don't choose a wife for my son from the women in this land of Canaan. Instead, go back to the land where I was born and find a wife for my son from among my relatives.' I asked my master, 'What if the Lord refuses to come with me?' My master answered, 'I have always obeyed the Lord, and he will send his angels to help you find my son, a wife from among my own relatives. But if they refuse to let her come back with you, then you are freed from your promise. When I came to the well today, I silently prayed, "You, Lord, are the God my master Abraham worships. So please lead me to a wife for his son while I am here at the well. When a young woman comes out to get water, I'll ask her to give me a drink. If she gives me a drink and offers to get some water for my camels, I'll know she is the one that you have chosen." Even before I had finished praying, Rebecca came by with a water jar on her shoulder. When she had filled the jar, I asked her for a drink. She quickly lowered the jar from her shoulder and said, "Have a drink, and then I'll get water for your camels." So I drank, and after that she got some water for my camels. I asked her who her father was, and she answered, "My father is Bethuel, the son of Nahor and Milcah." Right away, I put the ring in her nose and the bracelets on her arms. Then I bowed my head and gave thanks to the God my master Abraham worships. The Lord had led me straight to my master's relatives, and I had found a wife for his son. Now, please tell me if you are willing to do the right thing for my master. Will you treat him fairly, or do I have to look for another young woman?" Laban and Bethuel answered, "The Lord has done this. We have no choice in the matter. Take Rebekah with you. She can marry your master's son, just as the Lord had said." Abraham's servant bowed down and thanked the Lord. Then he gave clothing as well as silver and gold and jewelry to Rebekah. He also gave expensive gifts to her brother and her mother. Abraham's servant and the men with them ate and drank and then spent the night there. The next morning they got up, and the servants told Rebekah's mother and brother, "I would like to go back to my master now." "Let Rebekah stay with us for a week or 10 days," they answered, "then she may go." But he said, Don't make me stay any longer. The Lord has already helped me find a wife for my master's son. Now let us return." They answered, "Let's ask Rebekah what she wants to do." And they called her and asked, "Are you willing to leave with this man right now?" "Yes," she answered. So they agreed to let Rebekah and an old family servant woman leave immediately with Abraham's servants and his men. They gave Rebekah their blessing and said, "We pray that God will give you many children and grandchildren, that he will help them defeat their enemies." Afterwards, Rebekah and the young woman who were to travel with her prepared to leave. Then they got on camels and left with Abraham's servant and his men. At that time, Isaac was living in the southern part of Canaan, near a place called the Well of the Living One Who Sees Me. One evening he was walking out in the fields when suddenly he saw a group of people approaching on camels. So he started toward them. Rebekah saw him coming. She got down from her camel and asked, "Who is that man?" "He is my master, Isaac," the servant answered. And then Rebekah covered her face with her veil. The servant told Isaac everything that had happened. Isaac took Rebekah into the tent where his mother had lived before she died, and Rebekah became his wife. He loved her and was comforted over the loss of his mother. Chapter 25. Abraham married again. He married Keturah, and they had 6 sons: Zimram, Jokshan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Later, Jokshan became the father of Sheba and Dedan grew up. He had 3 sons: Asherim, Letshum, and Limim. Midian also had 5 sons: Epher, Hanok, Abida, and Eldah. While Abraham was still alive, he gave gifts to the sons of Hagar and Keturah. He also sent their sons to live in the east, far from his son Isaac. When Abraham died, he left everything to Isaac. Abraham died at the ripe old age of 175. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him east of Hebron in Machpelah cave. That was part of the field Abraham had brought from Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite. Abraham was buried there beside his wife Sarah. God blessed Isaac after this, and Isaac moved to a place called the Well of the Living One Who Sees Me. Ishmael was the son of Abraham and Hagar, the slave woman of Sarah. Ishmael had 12 sons in this order: Nebaioth, Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Asa, Hadad, Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. Each of Ishmael's sons was a tribal chief, and the village was named after each of them. Ishmael had settled in the land east of his brothers, and his sons settled everywhere from Havilah to Shur, east of Egypt, on the way to Ashur. Ishmael was 137 years old when he died. Isaac was the son of Abraham, and he was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, and she was also the sister of Laban, the Aramean from northern Syria. Almost 20 years later, Rebekah still had no children, so Isaac asked the Lord to let her have a child, and the Lord answered his prayer. Before Rebekah gave birth, she knew she was going to have twins because she could feel them inside her, fighting each other. She thought, "Why is this happening to me?" Finally, she asked the Lord why her twins were fighting, and he told her, "Your two sons will become two separate nations. The younger of the two will be stronger, and the older son will be his servant." When Rebekah gave birth, the first baby was covered with red hair, so he was named Esau. The second baby grabbed onto his brother's heel, so they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when they were born. As Jacob and Esau grew older, Esau liked the outdoors and became a good hunter, while Jacob settled down and became a shepherd. Esau would take the meat of wild animals to his father Isaac, and so Isaac loved him more. But Jacob was his mother's favorite son. One day Jacob was cooking some stew when Esau came home hungry and said, "I'm starving to death. Give me some of that red stew right now." That's how Esau got the name Edom. Jacob replied, "Sell me your rights as the firstborn son." "I'm about to die," Esau answered. "What good will those rights do for me?" But Jacob said, "Promise me your birthrights here and now." And that's what Esau did. Jacob then gave Esau some bread and some of the bean stew. And when Esau had finished eating and drinking, he just got up and left, showing how little he thought of his rights of the firstborn. That's just the beginning of a crazy story between Jacob and Esau and everything that's going on. And we'll talk about that in the future. Have a great day.